interact with this text file, it needs an object. It needs an object. FSO, it needs an object. Okay, so we create the object scripting.file system object. Any object we create, the first object is called as a first object. First object is always used to open an application. Can you see that here? Whenever we create the first object, we use that to open the things. FSO.open text file. FSO.open text file. This first object, implementation is till the opening some application only. Okay, after that the object is not used inside the things. Okay, so that's why FSO is for opening the text file. In Excel also, my Excel is just to use the open the workbook. All the other things which are carried out is with the other object. So to interact inside the application, right? To interact with inside the application, my text is used. To act inside the application, inside the notepad, second object is used always. My txt dot write line and all those. So we create a second object so that we interact inside the application. So if you see here, first object we open the things, but we assign those things to the second object. Those things to a second object. We are referencing, we take the second object so that we interact inside the application. So FSO.open text file, where exactly it needs to open? It needs to open in D drive. Okay, it needs to open in D drive. What's the input output mode? What it needs to do once it is opened in the D drive? It needs to enter, it needs to write. This true is nothing but if the file is not available, create it. If it is there, you can use false here. If it is already there and if I am trying to execute, what will happen is it will overwrite. Okay, it checks if it is exist. Okay, let it be existing. I'll work on the input output mode. That is how the things will be. So once you create this path, right, it will be assigned to the second object so that the next line of code, next method and all is always used with respect to the second object. If you see here, next line of codes and all is with respect to the second object. Okay, did I answer the things, Nilanjan? At least you are getting the point. Make it simple. First object is always to open whenever we interact with the third party tool, and the second object is always to interact inside that third party tool, inside that third party application. Always the second object is used inside to work inside the third party application. Any object, the second object will be always prefix of some English sentence. This AOM you'll be wondering, how do I get to know? These are all kind of standards, guys. You can copy paste the code. Okay, but in general with the practice you'll be easily able to write the code. Okay, now how exactly, if you see here, test case 1 is passed and test case 2 is failed. If at all I change it, if at all I change this. Okay, I see another question here. How the content is getting saved in the notepad as you are writing in the write mode? Yes, there will be kind of an automatic save. Here like Excel we don't say something like save and automatically the notepad gets saved in here. The feature is already available when it is write mode and all, right? This parameter will take care of everything. These parameters will take care of everything. Okay, automatically it gets saved. Okay, Neelanjan is asking one read mode example. Yes, we'll be getting into that, guys. We'll be getting into the append mode and the read mode. Okay, I mean, I'll complete that and close the session today. Okay, how do we need to use this log file? I think we have a report generated by QTP. Yes, Ravi, we use the report, that is the HTML result, that's called as an HTML result. That, as I said, it has a disadvantage. Basically, we can open only after after the execution. Once the execution stop only, you can see that result. Whereas in this case, even when the execution is happening, say around 1000 cases if you are executing, even during the execution you can open the log files and see what exactly which test case is getting executed. Whereas in your HTML results, right, QTP results, you cannot see that. That's the kind of a disadvantage which we have. So most of the managers, most of the project, most of the frameworks prefer log files. Okay, so what I'll do is, let me just change this to 3 and change this to 4. If I'm executing now, what will happen, guys? What will happen to this? How many lines of code it would be? How many lines of code it would be? Let me run and showcase that. Since the input output mode is right input output mode, just see how many lines it comes in. It will overwrite. Okay, you would have generally thought that okay, 4 lines should have been there. Earlier test case 1 is passed, test case 2 was failed, was there. Now I changed that in the coding. I changed that in the code. Now only test case 3 is 4, and already the logs were there, already 2 lines were there. But if it's write mode, right, it will erase everything, whatever is there earlier, and it will create the new lines. It will create the new lines. So always in the projects as well, you should be using which mode? You should be using append mode, which is very, very important. You'll be using the append mode. How do I use the append mode, guys? What I'll do is I'll copy the same code. I hope you don't get confused. I'm copying the same code. I'll make a partition. I'll comment this. Okay, I'll comment this. You closely observe, guys, where exactly I'm going to change the code. Okay, my first line of code creating the object will remain the same way. Where do I need to change the code now? If I want to append the result. Now, why I need to append the result in my framework? Assume I have 1000 test case and I have written around 1000 functions. Okay, one function will be giving one result. So 1000 results I need to have. It should keep on appending the things. It's not like first function it gives the result, and when it goes to the second function it erases the first function result. It should not be the case, right? So that's why we should give the input output mode as 8. Any log files or any result, you should append the result. Okay, now already we have test case 3 is passed and test case 4 is failed, right? Let me change this to 5 and let me change this to 6. Now if I execute, how many lines of code it should be there, guys? Let me run this and just closely observe what will be happening to our results. If you see here, 4 results we get. So which one we will be using? If at all we use the FSO, for sure we'll be using in our framework for the log files. We will be using append mode. So when we write the code at that point in time, we'll be asking the question which way or which input output mode we should be using. The answer should be what, guys? The append mode. It should be 8. It is 8. If you see here, the only change which I did is the input output mode has 8. All the other lines of code I just retain the same way. Okay, this is like my what you call my file. How do I read this? What I'll do is, again, let me just copy this. Let me just comment this. Okay, I'm again copying, guys. Do not get confused. Please closely observe. Okay, I made a partition. Please closely observe. I had copied the earlier code. Now I need to read. How do I read, guys? I create the object, first object. I create the second object. First object is used for opening the text file. Where do I need to change, guys? The input output mode. The input output mode I need to change it to what? As 1. How do I read the file now? How do I read the file, guys? If at all, there is a simple rule, guys. When you know the count, you should be using for loop. When you don't know the count, you should be using do while loop. Okay, can I get the count in a text file? Can I get the count? If it was a Excel, I can get the row count. I can traverse and I can go on each row and get the values. If it's a text file, right, I cannot get the row count. That is a major difference which we have. When we don't know the count, we need to use a condition. I'll be using a condition now. I'll be using the do while loop. Okay, when you know the count, go for the for loop. When you don't know the count, go for the do while loop or do until loops having a condition. The condition is, okay, read all these streams, I mean basically all these characters till the last cursor reaches here. I mean till the last character. Okay, do while at the end of the stream. Okay, not equal to true. How exactly? What do I need to do is this line of code will be immaterial for me now. Closely observe guys. I'm deleting this and the input output mode was 1. Okay, how do I type the code? How do I read the things? Okay, I need to say do while. Okay, do while at the end of the stream. Let me just get into the things. Do while my txt dot at the end of this stream not equal to true. Okay, let me just delete these things guys. What this says is do while my txt use the second object at the end of this stream. At the end of this stream is nothing but till it reaches this character. Till it reaches, first what it does is do while at the end of the stream. Okay, is it the last character in this file? No. The condition is not true. Then it goes to the second line. Another loop. Okay, till this is the last character in this file? No. It goes to the next loop. Is this the last character in this file? No. Again it goes to the next. Yes, this is the last character in this entire file. Okay, so that way what I'll do is, shall I give a message box my txt dot read line. What it will do? First it will check whether this is the last character. It will read the first line for me. It will give in a message box this output. Then the second, is this the last thing? Okay, it's not true. It will read the second line. It will read the second line. Then it reaches here. Is it the last thing? No, it gives the result. It gets inside. Is this the last character? Yes, but it gives the second result. And when it goes the next line, okay, nothing is available. So it will get out of the loop. Okay, how do we release the object guys? Set myTxt equal to nothing and set FSO equal to nothing. Okay, shall we execute this and see guys how many lines of code, how much message box we should get? First is test case 3. Okay, next one is at the end of the this thing, test case 4, test case 5, test case 6. It got released. So how many lines we read? 4 lines. Okay, at the end of the stream means when you don't know the count, right, you'll be always using what guys? Do while loop. Okay, you'll get to know. Many times we'll be sending across the database videos and all those stuffs. There will be extensively using the do while loop and do until loop and all these things. To keep it simple guys, well, the things which you need to focus is, first is the if condition to validate. When you know the count, you should be using for loop. When you don't know the count, use the do while loop or the do until loop. Okay, so in FSO is used for what? To create the log files. What are the 3 input output modes? One is numeric 2, second one is numeric 8, and third one is numeric 1. Numeric 2 is for what? Numeric 2 is for write, and numeric 8 is for append, and numeric 1 is for read. So we did all the 3 examples, and which one is used in the real-time projects, which one is used in our framework design also? We will be using the numeric 8, the append mode. Numeric 8, the append mode. Let me save this code as FSO. Okay, please use the code, copy paste that and start using the things guys. Copy paste and use the things. Okay. Okay guys, so this is what is all about the FSOs. Okay, And let me just come to this part. Let me just come to this part. So FSO got completed, guys, today. So tomorrow we'll be discussing very interesting